There are some stories our grandmothers told us in whispers. Stories they would only share when the sun went down. Stories that made us check under our beds before we slept. This is one of those stories. In the time when the world was younger but no less dangerous, there lived a girl named Wanjiku. And Wanjiku was beautiful. Not the kind of beautiful that makes men glance twice. No, the kind of beautiful that makes men forget their own names. Her skin was smooth like the bark of a young mugumo tree after rain. Her eyes held the depths of Lake Naivasha at dawn. Her smile could make even the stern elders pause mid-sentence and forget what they were saying. But beauty, my friends, can be a blessing or a curse. For Wanjiku, it became both. Before we go further into Wanjiku's story, if you are enjoying this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are keeping our ancestors' wisdom alive at Mwanga wa Mababu, the light of the ancestors. Every subscriber helps preserve these stories for the next generation. Now, back to the story. By the time she reached the age of marriage, every young man in the village had come to her father's homestead. They came with gifts. They came with promises. They came with their best clothes and their rehearsed words. The son of the village chief came first, strong, wealthy. His family had many cattle and large lands. Wanjiku's father was pleased. He said, "This is a good match." But when the young chief stood before Wanjiku, she looked at him and saw nothing. "No," she said simply. Her father was shocked. Her mother tried to reason with her, but Wanjiku refused. Then came the great warrior, a man who had killed a lion with his bare hands, a man whose name was sung in songs across 3 villages, brave, fearless, respected. Wanjiku's father nodded with approval. Surely this one, he thought. But Wanjiku looked at the warrior and felt nothing. "No," she said again. One by one they came, the wealthy merchant, the skilled blacksmith, the wise teacher, the hard-working farmer. Good men, strong men, men who would have made fine husbands. But to each one, Wanjiku said the same word, "No." Her father grew frustrated. "What is wrong with you, child? These are good men, men any woman would be proud to marry." Wanjiku would only shake her head. "They are not what I am looking for, father." "Then what are you looking for?" her mother asked, exasperated. Wanjiku paused. She looked out toward the forest, toward the mountains beyond, and she said something that would haunt her mother for the rest of her life. "I will know him when I see him." The village began to talk, as villages always do. "Wanjiku has refused another suitor," the women would whisper at the river. "That's the 7th one this season," another would add. "She thinks she is too good for our men," an elder woman said with disapproval. But there was one old woman, a woman whose eyes had seen many seasons, who said something different. "That girl is not proud," she said quietly. "She is waiting." "Waiting for what?" The old woman looked toward the forest, toward the mountains beyond, and she said something that would haunt her mother for the rest of her life, for something that is waiting for her. The other women laughed nervously. They did not ask what she meant. Some things are better left unknown. Months passed. Wanjiku continued to refuse every suitor. Her father was no longer just frustrated, he was worried. In those days, an unmarried daughter was a burden on the family, not because she was useless, but because it went against the natural order of things. Girls became women, women became wives, wives became mothers. This was the way. But Wanjiku seemed determined to break the pattern. Her younger sister had already married. Even her cousins younger than her were being courted. Wanjiku remained alone. Beautiful, yes, but alone. And then he appeared. It was market day. The village square was full of noise and color. Women selling vegetables, men trading goats, children running between the stalls, laughing and stealing sugarcane when no one was looking. Wanjiku was there with her mother buying maize flour, and that's when she saw him. He stood at the edge of the market, tall, not just tall, commanding. His shoulders were broad, his posture perfect. He wore clothes finer than anything anyone in the village had ever seen. Deep blue fabric that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, a necklace of beads that sparkled like stars. But it was his face that stopped her heart. He was handsome, but not in the way the other men were handsome. His features were perfect, too perfect, as if someone had carved him from stone and breathed life into him. His eyes were dark and deep. When they met Wanjiku's eyes across the crowded market, everything else disappeared. The noise faded, the people blurred. There was only him and her, and the space between them that seemed to crackle with something neither of them could name. Wanjiku's mother tugged at her arm. "Wanjiku, are you listening?" But Wanjiku didn't hear her. She was already walking toward him. He smiled when she approached, a slow, deliberate smile. "I have been looking for you," he said. His voice was smooth, like honey poured over warm stones, like the river flowing over smooth rocks. It made something in Wanjiku's chest tighten. "You have been looking for me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," he said, "for a very long time." He introduced himself as Mwanga, a traveler, he said, from a distant land beyond the mountains. He had come in search of trade opportunities, but when he saw Wanjiku, he knew he had found something far more valuable. They talked. For hours they talked, while Wanjiku's mother watched with a mixture of relief and unease. Mwanga was charming, intelligent. He spoke of places Wanjiku had never seen, described wonders she had only dreamed of. He made her laugh in a way she had never laughed before, made her feel seen in a way she had never felt seen. "I must go," he said as the sun began to set, "but I will return tomorrow, may I?" Wanjiku nodded and unable to speak. And he did return the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Within a week, the entire village knew Wanjiku, the girl who had refused every man, had finally found someone, and oh, what a someone he was. The young men of the village stared with jealousy. The women whispered with curiosity. Wanjiku's father was both pleased and suspicious. "Who is this man?" he asked his daughter. "Where does he come from? What are his family? What are his intentions?" "He comes from beyond the mountains," Wanjiku said, her eyes shining. "His family are traders, and his intentions, father, he wants to marry me." Her father frowned. "We know nothing about him. We know that he is kind, that he is intelligent, that he makes me happy. What else is there to know?" Her father wanted to argue, but he looked at his daughter's face, truly looked at it, and saw something he hadn't seen in years. Joy, pure, unfiltered joy. And what father can argue against his daughter's joy? But not everyone was happy. Wanjiku's grandmother, a woman so old she remembered when the British first came, watched Mwanga with eyes that had seen too much. "There is something wrong with that man," she told Wanjiku's mother. "What do you mean? He seems perfectly fine." "Exactly," the grandmother said. "He seems, but seeming is not being." "You are just being suspicious, Mama. You are old and you see shadows everywhere." The grandmother shook her head slowly. "I am old, yes, and because I am old, I know that some shadows are not just shadows. Some shadows have teeth." But her warnings went unheard. Wanjiku was in love, and love, as we all know, is deaf to warnings. The wedding was planned. Mwanga paid the bride price without hesitation. 30 goats, 20 cattle,
more wealth than anyone in the village had seen in years. Wanjiku's father was impressed. He said, "This man must come from a very wealthy family, or a very desperate one," the grandmother muttered. On the day of the wedding, the village gathered as gathers. There was food, there was music, there was dancing. Mwanga stood at the center of it all, smiling his perfect smile. Wanjiku stood beside him, glowing with happiness. But if anyone had looked closely, truly closely, they might have noticed something strange. Mwanga never ate. When food was offered, he politely declined. "I already ate," he said with his charming smile. He never drank. When beer was offered, he would hold the calabash but never bring it to his lips. And when the sun began to set and the dancing grew wild, Mwanga suggested they leave early.
"I am eager to begin our life together," he told Wanjiku with that mesmerizing smile. And who could argue with that? Mwanga had built a house for them, far from the village, deep in the forest, he said, where they could have privacy, where they could start their life without the prying eyes of neighbors. Wanjiku thought it was romantic. Her mother thought it was strange. Her grandmother thought it was a trap. But the wedding was done. The vows were spoken, and now Wanjiku belonged to Mwanga. As husband and wife, they walked through the darkened forest toward their new home. Mwanga walked ahead, confident and sure. Wanjiku followed, her heart full of dreams. Neither of them spoke. The forest was silent. Too silent. No birds sang, no crickets chirped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. "Is it much further?" Wanjiku asked, her voice small in the vast silence. "Just a little more," Mwanga said, without turning around. And then they arrived. The house was beautiful, larger than any house in the village, made of strong wood and smooth stones. A fire was already burning inside, casting warm light through the windows. "You built this?" Wanjiku asked in awe. "For you," Mwanga said. "Everything is for you." They went inside. The house was furnished with things Wanjiku had never seen. Soft mats, beautiful cloths, clay pots decorated with intricate patterns. "Make yourself comfortable," Mwanga said. "I need to prepare something." He went into the back room and closed the door. Wanjiku sat by the fire, her mind spinning with happiness. She was married to the most handsome man she had ever seen, in a beautiful house, away from the judgmental eyes of the village. This was everything she had dreamed of. But then, she heard something. At first, she thought it was the wind, a low hissing sound, like air escaping from a punctured water skin. But it was coming from the back room, where Mwanga had gone. "Mwanga," Wanjiku called, "are you all right?" No answer, just that hissing, louder now, and something else, a sound like scales sliding across stone. Wanjiku stood up, her heart beginning to race. "Mwanga!" The door to the back room opened, and what emerged was not her husband. It was a serpent, but not just any serpent. A serpent so massive it filled the doorway. Its body was as thick as a man's torso. Its scales gleamed in the firelight, black and green and iridescent. Its eyes were the same eyes she had fallen in love with in the market. Dark, deep, but now cold, so cold. The serpent slithered into the room, its tongue flicking in and out, tasting the air, tasting her fear. Wanjiku couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. She could only watch as the serpent circled her once, twice, 3 times, its massive body coiling around her legs, her waist, her chest. Not squeezing, not yet, just holding. And then it spoke.
"Did you think I was a man?" the serpent asked, its voice the same honey-smooth voice of Mwanga. Wanjiku's mouth moved, but no sound came out. "I am what you wished for. Perfect, beautiful, everything no ordinary man could be. You rejected the real men, the good men, because you wanted something more. Well, here I am, your perfect husband." The coils tightened slightly. Wanjiku gasped. "We are married now, bound by vows, bound by tradition. You are mine, and I am yours, for better or worse, until death." Morning came. Wanjiku was still alive. The serpent had loosened his grip just enough for her to breathe, to think, to understand the horror of her situation. When the sun rose, the serpent transformed back into Mwanga, the handsome man with the perfect smile. He prepared breakfast as if nothing had happened. "You should eat," he said pleasantly. "You need your strength." Wanjiku stared at him with wide, terrified eyes. "What are you?" "Your husband," he said simply. "I told you we are married." "But you're a serpent." "Yes, during the night, but during the day I am as you see me. Is that not enough? You wanted perfection. I gave it to you." He sat across from her, his eyes suddenly serious. "You can try to run, Wanjiku, but where will you go? Back to the village to tell them you married a serpent? They will think you are mad. They will say you are cursed. They will reject you. Better to stay here with me. At least here you are provided for, protected, loved, in my own way." And the terrible thing was, he was right. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. During the day, Mwanga was the perfect husband, attentive, kind. He brought her gifts from the forest, rare flowers, beautiful stones, exotic fruits. He spoke to her with warmth and intelligence. He never raised his voice, never raised his hand. But every night, every single night, he became the serpent. And Wanjiku learned to live with both of them. She learned to accept the coils around her body in the darkness, learned to fall asleep to the sound of scales sliding across the floor, learned to wake up next to a man and remember that he was not really a man. She thought about running. Every single day she thought about it. But where would she go? Her family had accepted the bride price. The marriage was sealed, and Mwanga, or whatever he truly was, had been right. If she told anyone the truth, they would never believe her. So she stayed, trapped not by chains, but by shame, by disbelief, by the prison of her own choices. But then, something changed. Wanjiku discovered she was pregnant. At first she was terrified. What would the child be? Human? Serpent? Some horrible mixture of both. Mwanga was delighted. "A child," he exclaimed when she told him. "Our child." "What will it be?" Wanjiku asked, her voice shaking. Mwanga's face faded. For the first time since their marriage, she saw something like uncertainty in his eyes. I do not know," he admitted. The pregnancy progressed. Wanjiku's belly grew, and with each passing day, she felt something stirring inside her. Something that moved in ways no human child should move. She felt it coiling, uncoiling, sliding. One night, Wanjiku awoke to find Mwanga in his human form with his massive head pressed against her swollen belly. He was listening, and from inside, she heard it. A hissing, soft, tiny, but unmistakable. The serpent pulled back and transformed back into Mwanga. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Pride? Fear? Both? "It is strong," he said quietly. Wanjiku began to cry, not from sadness, not from fear, from the crushing weight of knowing that she was about to bring something into the world that should not exist. The birth came on a night with no moon. The darkness was absolute. Wanjiku's screams echoed through the forest. Mwangi, in his human form, tried to help, but there was nothing he could do. This was beyond him, beyond both of them. And then it was born. The baby was beautiful, perfectly human, a baby with smooth skin and tiny fingers and her mother's eyes. Wanjiku wept with relief. She's human, she sobbed. Thank God she's human. Mwangi held the child gently, carefully. He looked at his daughter with something like wonder. Yes, he said softly, she is. But that night, when the baby slept in her small basket, Wanjiku saw something that made her blood freeze. The baby's skin rippled, just for a moment, as if something underneath was moving, something with scales. And she knew the child was human, but she carried her father's blood, and blood, as everyone knows, does not lie. Years passed. The daughter grew, beautiful like her mother, strong like her father. But there were signs, things that couldn't be explained. The way she moved sometimes, fluid, boneless like water. The way her eyes would change color in certain light, becoming yellow, reptilian. The way she shed her skin once a year, like a sickness that left behind perfect translucent sheets. Wanjiku watched her daughter with a mixture of love and horror. This was her child, but this was also the child of a serpent. One day, when the girl was 7 years old, she asked her mother a question. "Mama, why do I feel different from other children?" Wanjiku looked at her daughter, this beautiful, impossible creature, and she told her the truth about the handsome stranger in the market,
About the wedding in the forest, about the serpent in the night, about everything. The girl listened quietly, and when the story was finished, she said something that broke Wanjiku's heart. "So, I am a monster?" "No," Wanjiku said fiercely, grabbing her daughter's hands. "You are my daughter. You are human. You are good. What your father is does not define what you are." But the girl pulled away. "I can feel it, Mama, inside me. Something that wants to change. Something that is not human." And Wanjiku had no answer for that. The girl never transformed, not completely, but the signs grew stronger as she grew older. By the time she reached the age of marriage, she refused every suitor, just like her mother had. "I cannot marry," she told Wanjiku. "What if I have children? What if they are like me, or worse?" "You deserve happiness," Wanjiku said. "I deserve isolation," the girl replied. "It is safer for everyone." And so she remained alone, living with her mother and father in the house in the forest, hidden from the world, a secret that could never be told. Wanjiku grew old. Her beauty faded with time, as all beauty does. But Mwangi never aged. He remained as handsome as the day she met him, perfect, unchanging, immortal. One day, as Wanjiku looked at her reflection in the water and saw the lines around her eyes, the gray in her hair, she asked him, "Will I die?" Mwangi was silent for a long moment. "Yes," he said finally. "You are human. You will die. And you?" "I will remain." "Alone?" "No," he said softly. "With our daughter, for as long as she lives, and then I will return to what I was before, a serpent in the forest, waiting for the next beautiful girl who wants something more than what is real." Wanjiku felt something break inside her. "Was any of it real?" she whispered. "Did you ever love me?" Mwangi looked at her, really looked at her, and for just a moment his perfect facade cracked. "I do not know," he admitted. "I do not know if what I feel is love or hunger or something in between. I am not human, Wanjiku.
I do not love the way humans love, but I wanted you. I still want you. Is that not enough?" And Wanjiku realized with crushing clarity it was not enough. It had never been enough, but it was all she had. The story ends as all stories must. Wanjiku died, old, weary, but not unhappy. She died in the house in the forest, surrounded by her husband and her daughter. And as her last breath left her body, Mwanga leaned close and whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" Wanjiku's daughter asked. "For staying," Mwanga said. "She could have run many times, but she stayed. Not because she loved me, but because she loved you. And that is something even I can understand." They buried Wanjiku beneath the great Mugumo tree, the same kind of tree where Gikoyo once prayed to Ngai, the same kind of tree where prayers are heard and choices are made. And after the burial, Mwanga looked at his daughter and said, "You are free now. You can leave. Go to the village. Live among your mother's people. I will not stop you." But the daughter shook her head. "I am like you, father, neither fully human nor fully serpent. I do not belong in the village. I belong here, in the in-between." And so they remained, father and daughter, serpent and half-human, living in the house in the forest. Some say they are still there, watching, waiting. This story, this terrible, beautiful story, is a warning about the danger of wanting perfection, about rejecting what is real in search of what is fantasy, about the price we pay when we choose appearance over substance. Wanjiku wanted a perfect man, and she got exactly what she wished for. But perfection, as she learnt, is not human, and what is not human cannot truly love. The good men she rejected, the chief's son, the warrior, the farmer, they were flawed, ordinary, human, but they were real. And real, imperfect love is always better than perfect, hollow devotion. So, when you see someone who seems too perfect, too beautiful, too smooth, too good to be true, remember Wanjiku, remember the serpent, and ask yourself, what are they hiding beneath their perfect skin? Because sometimes, my friends, sometimes the monster is not hiding under your bed. Sometimes the monster is lying next to you, smiling with perfect teeth. Moral: beware of perfection. True love is flawed, human, and real. What glitters may have scales beneath.